Oh, is it?
We're ready.
Okay. Okay. It's
I
two.
was born ready.
Well, culture is live on YouTube in three, two, you're live.
All right, everybody, we are back for the second time ever in history. The first time it was just me. The second time I brought the team with me. We got Michael Babcock that is handling the new platform that Fedora will be continuously launching many products and services from. And on that platform, we have sitting in her throned chair is Angela Pratt. How are you, Angela?
I'm doing wonderful this evening.
Excellent, excellent. And to her right, your left. I hate when people do that. We have the first man to ever get an Apple Watch, to our knowledge, to help close out his VR case. And now he gets to use that very same Apple Watch to help the Veterans Administration understand the importance of the Apple Watch. The iOS Master Series maven himself, Mr. Matthew Carrillo. How are you, sir?
First of all, that is one extreme right or left, no matter how you look at it. But I am doing great.
Awesome, awesome. Cool. So we are here today to break some ground on something that a lot of people in the community has experienced. And Mike, anytime that you want to jump in, feel free. If you just want to close us out at the end, however you want to do it, jump into the conversation. But we've experienced abandonment. And so we got some great stories. I got some posts from Facebook just reminding me of some blatant abandonment that one person experienced. Just, the stories as we kind of evolve as a culture in the disability communities all around the world. And for me, I kind of describe abandonment like all of us are playing in the ocean, and then I say, I can't see, I'm blind, and everybody just leaving. And that fear that grips you because you're not knowing whether you're going to make it to shore, that acknowledgement of there's no one around, the same people that you were fun with is gone. And then you have to make it wondering, number one, what happened? Number two, I didn't say I wanted to be blind at that particular time. It just happened. And why are these people leaving me so it feels? And before we get into the stories, what's just your comments? Let's start with Angela on abandonment itself. How do you kind of come to grips with that?
For me, abandonment is one of those innate types of fear. I think that we as humans fear the loss of love, the loss of connectiveness with people. So when we see it and it's blatant, it becomes more devastating for us. One of the things that came clear to me is that when we were born, there was a connection that we had with our mother. There was an umbilical cord that kept us connected, that kept us very close to her. And during the birthing process, there was a severage of that connection. And immediately the child cries. We as adults go through the same thing. There is a connection. There is some type of umbilical cord that connects us to our community, whether it's family, whether it's friends. And when that is cut, we feel a sense of hurt and we feel alone. And for me, that feeling is something that stays with us if we don't take care of it, if we don't try to heal from that point. I personally had a story of abandonment in a relationship. While the doctors were saying that my eyesight will come back, and they didn't give a timeline, as soon as it was definite that it would not come back, the person I was in relationship with said immediately, I can't do the caretaking thing. Not thinking that a person who is visually impaired is very independent and does not need that caretaking. But at the same token, we all need each other. We all are caretakers of each other. And so there are various reasons why people leave. And I think that we get caught up in the why, that we don't allow ourselves to heal. We can't control no one else's actions. And so when we get caught up in the why ourselves, we basically hinder ourselves from healing from the feelings of abandonment that are innate to all of us. And one other thing that I want to mention before we get into the conversation is that abandonment, the feeling of abandonment, is close to grief because you have a loss. But a lot of times that when you're experiencing those emotions and those feelings, they're coming from several different places. You might have had an experience as a child where you were on the swings and you looked around and your parents were gone and you had this sense of fear, like, oh my God, they left me. And you never really overcame that feeling of being left. And since you're a child and you don't have the ways of dealing with that, it moves into your adult life. And so when you're feeling that abandoned feeling as an adult, those old feelings surface as well. And so for me, the key is to healing is to recognize that you have to heal not only from the trauma of losing people during your current abandonment issues, but from the past as well in order to move forward.
No, that's right. So Matt, what about you? What's your thoughts after, well, I guess first of all, abandonment, have you healed from it? Do you kind of recognize it and are you able to deal with it? Are you still dealing with it? Where are you at as far as the abandonment that you've experienced?
All right. Well, very quickly, I will just kind of explain very quickly what I consider abandonment. There's one very good way to look at abandonment. There was a movie that was out a while back, starring Tom Hanks, called Castaway. Now, I liken abandonment to being a person who gets shipwrecked on an island and is all by themselves. Now, I know that's an extreme way to look at it, but the mental effects can be the same from that type of a situation. And for me, I consider abandonment, I still have, it's kind of like PTSD for me. So I liken myself to a veteran in that way, in that when I was younger, I was not sighted and I was not blind. I said I can see well enough to hurt myself, basically. And when I was a teenager, I was able to kind of fake it. I could still ride a bike and do all that stuff. So I had friends and it was all good until everybody got their driver's licenses. At that point, they realized just how blind I was and vanished. But the part that hurt the most was I still lived in the same neighborhood. So I always saw them hanging out. And I guess there's still to this day, there's a part of me that is like, you know, where this person realizes one day or changes and they're gone. So it's kind of like a post-traumatic stress disorder thing for me.
Angela, what would you say to that when you hear him speak in that manner about his abandonment concerns?
I totally agree. I was going to say it. I was clapping my hands virtually over here, and he said PTSD. A lot of psychiatrists have said that abandonment is similar to that, or if not the same, because your body goes through the chemical emotions the same way. You experience it when you see things, you smell things. It brings back that memory. So it is really serious, and a lot of doctors try to put it as anxiety or depression, but it goes deeper than that. It goes a lot deeper than that. And there has not been a real cure or a diagnosis to say that abandonment is a separate entity. They tried to clump it with grief and also, like I said, depression. So I agree.
Well, also up until a couple of years ago, I had a burning anger inside of me. I could feel it, and anything could set me off. I would just literally lose my ever-loving mind. I mean, it was like heat. I could feel the heat rising inside of me. It was like a physical form. It was such a bad anger.
Yeah, it's a book that I will talk about a little bit later. It's the 5 steps to journeying from abandonment to healing. And one of the steps actually is step number 4 is rage. Rage is something that is expected. There is a point in your healing process that you do get angry, you get mad. And initially, there's two places in that step, that in this 5 steps, that you get angry. But one of those is you're turning it towards yourself. And then the other one, which is the rage, you're turning it outward. And he described it perfectly. You are agitated with everything. You get angry with everything. You fly off at the least little thing, and you take it out because there's a need not being met.
Mm-hmm. Got you. So I'm not really big on stories when it doesn't really help. But I think through telling this story, based on the feedback, you guys could resonate with it. And I'll only tell it once in life. What took place with me very specifically is that I had, unlike Matt, I've always been different. You know, I was always 1 foot in, 1 foot out of seeing all my life. So I never really experienced abandonment from friends because I had very little to start with. Now, once I became completely blind, in Georgia, we have service providers, and the service providers was like, you know, the people that knew everything about blindness. And so you latch on to them. You're getting learning how to cook, and you're learning how to count money if you didn't know how, and you're learning how to walk, and you're dependent on this particular service provider to teach you the things that you need to know. And what started to happen is I started to move through the ranks of leadership and things of that nature, as well as starting my company. And I get this call from this person that works for the company that is not directly related to the actual person who did the abandonment. But she says, hey, you started a company. I want Atlanta Journal Constitution to come out and interview you. And so they did. And I'm thinking I'm supposed to talk about me and my company. So that's what I talk about. I wasn't coached, as I often was, coming to the meetings on what to say to vocational rehabilitation so that they can get more money for me speaking out, because, you know, they couldn't do it or was afraid to or was cowards, whatever the case may be. And I'm sorry, I was getting a notification. And so that started to turn the wheels of the abandonment. You know, I was basically recommended, hey, you were supposed to talk about us. And I'm like, you know, again, I didn't know. Then I become the chairman of the Georgia Statewide Coalition on Blindness. And the day it's announced that I'm the chairman, this company in person pulls out. Then I get a contract. And the person who was normally the same person helping to help me to navigate the first contract we ever got, they pull away. Every single climb, and to the point where overt abandonment turned into covert abandonment. And they just basically emailed me and say, hey, you know, you need to stop speaking up and speaking out. Now, I'm looking at this as you're the people who were there telling me we can do it, you know, using the word we and we and we, and then with every step you pull away. Now, I started to look at that like, okay, well, it's like a parent. Once they know you got it, and they'll leave you alone, and it's like a growth. Look at him grow, look at him grow, until I'm reaching out, you know, about new business opportunities, and you're not answering my email. I'm calling you. I'm leaving you voicemails on your birthday. You're not responding. And that hurt so much to the point where for my release of it, I had to email her and track the email to make sure that she got it and just tell her that hurt. And it's been 3 years and she's never communicated. And I'm wondering, what did I do? What happened? I didn't curse you out. I didn't disrespect you. I was the same person as a halfway sighted person that I am as a blind person, just trying to figure it out. I was thinking you was there to help me. Come to find out, you're not. So, what does a person do, Angela?
What does a person do? Um, for me, I would say that the first thing is to acknowledge that you're going through the abandonment process. And one of the I'm just going to go ahead and go through the steps because I'm
Okay.
keep referencing them without just talking about them. The first thing is the abandonment steps to healing. It's called SWERVE. The first one is shattered. And the shattering step is basically when you are initially abandoned and you feel like everything has been pulled from up under you. That your life has just shattered and came completely to a stop, that you just cannot go any further. And some people basically say that they just can't breathe.
Mhm.
That so much is coming to you. You just feel shattered, all your pieces, and you don't know how to pull it back together. That's step one.
Mhm.
Step two is withdrawal. You go through a process similar to somebody who is addicted to a substance, where you are desiring that connection so much that you are waiting for the phone call. You're waiting for them to show up. You're waiting for the connection. You're waiting for the invitation to the movies. You're desiring that connection. You're withdrawing. Then you are internally taking things in. And the story you just told, and you asked, what do we do now? I see that at that point you were at the I, the internalizing, because you asked the question, what did I do?
Mhm.
Why did they leave me? Was I not good enough? What am I lacking that make the situation better? You're turning inside and blaming self. That's the first step of the anger, because you're blaming self. We cannot control the actions of anybody else but ourselves. And so when we start to ask the question why, we put ourselves on a roller coaster because we can't get an answer. They can even tell us this is the reason why, but that's not necessarily the truth. And we take that information in and we are angry and we turn it towards ourselves. And a lot of times, maybe not in your situation, but a lot of times when a person is doing that, it's because they are afraid to lash the anger at the person that have abandoned them. So they're
Hmm.
saying, it's me. What have I done? And then you get to the next step, which is that outward rage. That rage that says, no, I was good enough. No, I have everything I need. It was you. You hurt me. And when you start to act out, it's because you can't direct it to that one person. It's that everybody else around you. You know, people say that the closest to you get the brunt of it.
Mhm.
I was talking to someone and we were talking about this very thing because it's one of the coaching things that I do. And we were talking about it and she was giving the example how this person had left her life and she was feeling down and they had actually moved away. So she didn't have any way of contacting to say, I'm upset, you hurt me. So she went out to lunch with her friend and she was telling her friend how she was feeling. Her friend said, oh, you know how we do. Get over it. It'll be all right.
Mhm.
You can find somebody better. And she went completely off in the restaurant, yelling, screaming, crying. Was it her friend? No, it was that energy that she did not know how to redirect, that she was feeling, that rage. And the last step is L. It's that lifting. It's that place that you get to where you have redefined who you are and you're ready to re-enter into the world. It's that lifting that place, lifting yourself above what you have just experienced, lifting yourself. And one of the things that I like, because I don't like the term abandonment because it sounds so negative. It's like the loss, it's grief. But
Mhm.
I study a lot of Buddhist stuff as well, and it's a Buddhist term for abandonment, and it defines itself as an end and a beginning, an end and a beginning. And so, as we go through the 5 steps of abandonment, a place towards healing, we have to recognize that even though we're feeling these things in our shattered point and our withdrawal and our internalizing and our rage and our lifting, there's an other side. There's another side. There's a side that you can say, I may be feeling right now like I can't do it and I'm not equipped to move forward. But if you take that same energy and put it back into yourself and start to imagine yourself being whole again, being complete, having all of your needs met, emotional needs met, and knowing that whatever was taken away from your life can be put back in. We can get new friends. You know, it's where we get stuck with the why that we don't move forward in identifying those new friends. We can get new loves. It's when we get stuck as to why wasn't I good enough that we don't move forward in identifying a new love. We can get a
Mhm.
new job. We can get a new career. It's when we stop and say, I am not able to do that, or I am not equipped to do it, and we're not making the steps to make sure that you are equipped.
Mm.
Actually, if I can say something, it
Yeah, I was gonna
sounds a
jump
lot
on.
to me like I was going to say that abandonment to me sounds like a universe exploding, imploding in upon itself, reforming, and then becoming a new, better universe almost.
Now, see, that's
If that makes
powerful.
sense.
That does. That's powerful. I like that. I like that. I like that. I do. It's one of those things where you would feel, and I'm not dismissing any feelings because it's real. You feel those things. You experience those things. You're going through those things. You have those moments. The first 3 steps are internal. You are angry with yourself. Why am I feeling these emotions? I should be able to get up out my bed today. I should be able to move forward. And you're angry at yourself. And then you see your life start to switch and you realize that this should not be towards me. My anger is really towards the situation that happened. And once I get that, I can make the changes. And in any one of those steps, you can redefine yourself. You can start moving towards your healing and that place of lifting. That's powerful.
Yeah. I had to really, I kept thinking about it. It was going back and forth because I know I haven't done anything. And I'm like, I know what I'm feeling is true because you would tell everybody, these are my guys. Look at them. These my guys. And then I'm no longer your guy anymore. And I'm like, for real, what happened? Yeah, I mean, honestly, I'm like, what happened? Oh, we didn't really make Vashawn because it was like and you started seeing it, it was like, oh, he's saying stuff that we would never say, so we can't take the credit for him, so we would leave him to make sure that we separate ourselves from what he's no longer the guy anymore. And that thing hurt.
Mm-hmm.
It really hurt. And New Year's resolution, get over it. And I had to move on. And I experienced it in little bitty ways, like, hey, you can be my company's assistive technology head instructor. You can be the NFB's trainer for this new center. You can be this and you can be that. And nobody would ever actually bring it into fruition. It was like they'll use you to teach the classes for free.
Mm-hmm.
You're good enough for that. You're good enough dog and pony
Mhm.
show in front of your clients.
Mm-hmm.
You're good enough to speak for free.
Mm-hmm.
But the minute you demand a paycheck, it's, oh, you need a certificate. And then when I found out, oh, a certificate is only what you get to get your first job, then you can rely on your experience. I'm like, oh, well, I got experience. And then I became
So you're like
undeniably great.
so you're like the model car, and once they throw the engine in it and it starts up, they leave.
Right.
Mhm.
Abandon you. And I was like, this cannot happen. If you're doing it to me, I know you're doing it to the least of me.
Mhm.
So anyway, I'm sorry. That's my rant. I'm so on it. I don't know if I'm the L, the 1, or the 3, but like,
Look, I can tell you this, that what I was getting ready to say, because I don't want any of the listeners to think that this is an easy process, because when you do, when you do an acronym, it seems like you just go through them steps 1, 2, 3. This is a process. And some of the steps you repeat over and over again. This is definitely a process, but a process that has a healing in.
And so when you heal, what do you get from that?
For me, you get from being stuck, because a lot of times when you don't heal the abandonment issue and a plethora of other things, is that you are stuck because you start to sabotage yourself knowingly and unknowingly. You start to sabotage because you have been abandoned by some in a relationship. The next relationship that show up, you are expecting that person to do the same thing because you have not healed. If you've been let down from going for the job interview and you're saying to yourself, I'm not good enough for this position, and the next position you go to, you're walking in there with that feeling as well. You start to sabotage yourself. And so it's important that you heal. It's important that you get to a place where you know your value, you know your worth, you know that you can achieve anything that you put your mind to. And that the situation that happened was just that, a situation to make you turn inward and to work on self. And once you do that, you are recreating who you are. And you are relying on yourself for your emotional needs. You're no longer attached to anybody else to supply your emotional needs.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So Matt, you come to me, and we're talking, and through what I like to call an assessment. It's a thorough assessment. You can't get this type of information from the little 4 hours that is generally done for an assessment to find out where a person is really at. But you said you had trust issues, and it was literally like a year and a half later of us talking, or longer or short, but definitely not 4 hours or 4 months. And you said that there were trust concerns that you had, and when we explored that's the story that came out of it. Your healing process, what was that like for you? Because I would imagine it's just you and your wife and maybe your mother helping you to get over it, or did you just do it on your own? How did you get over it?
For me, it was a very long process. This happened back when I was about 17 or 18, and I really hadn't gotten into a part where I could trust people. And this was about 89, somewhere about there. And it wasn't until the mid 90s where I could deal with being around people, but I still had it. And it wasn't actually until 2000, 3 years after I totally lost my sight, that I got to a point where I had to make a jump. I had to do a severe move. I moved from New York to Texas to be with the woman I was with then. And it took me losing her and basically putting myself into a place called Chris Cole, which is a rehab center for the visually impaired or the blind. I knew a lot of the things when I went in there, but just taking that time and being around people 24/7 that I never knew before, and building relationships there, and people still sticking around me when I got out of there and found a place to live in Austin, that I was actually able to start the true building back of myself and my self-esteem and my drive to want to go on.
That's another thing that's destroyed in a lot, especially the male Well, yeah, I would say especially the male, the drive to want to go on, because I mean, you would be surprised how many guys that were married lose their sight and their wife leaves, and then you flip that and you got a wife or a girl or a girlfriend that loses her sight and the guy leaves, and you get to gain confidence back that you're even worthy. It's a hard step to get over. um man man that's crazy. Angela, what's your thoughts over just getting over that ability to, it's like that when you gather that strength and you're able to trudge forward. What is that called? Is that the L, the three? What's that?
The L on the three. I would say it starts with the I, internalizing, because
Right.
yeah, because then you're starting to rebuild the true you. You're starting to regain your self esteem and your confidence in who you are now becoming. And when you are actually walking that out, that's when you're in the lifting part. You're actually walking out who you are today.
Hmm. So Matt, this is a new Matt. What was the old Matt like in this stupor, this depression, in this point of abandonment? What was your attitude like day to day?
Uh, well, unfortunately back then I had way too much free time because I was
Mhm.
just out of high school and I really didn't have that much to do. So I was kind of like, how can I explain this? I did a lot of thinking, and thinking can be a bad thing sometimes. And I found this cabinet that my parents had there, cheap liquor in it, and I would basically drink earlier in the day, take a nap, and wake up when they got home. And it didn't happen for very long. I mean, I stopped myself after a little while, but I don't like thinking about that part of it. But it's just,
Right.
well, I basically walked around the house and drove myself nuts.
Mhm.
Hmm.
My
Yeah.
only saving grace is I had a white German Shepherd back then who was my best friend, and he centered me a lot.
Hmm. Wow. Hmm.
Yeah. I was going to say that's very common in the shattering stage. You will find a lot of people turn to a different substance to numb the pain. It is so much pain that you just want it out. And some people um, say that they want to commit suicide. And a lot of them don't go through with it, thank God. But that feeling of I'm better off if I'm not here usually happens in the shatter stage when you're feeling that everything is gone. Turning to emotional eaters, sex addictions, alcoholism. A lot of that comes from that phase when you feel that you're all by yourself and that you just want to sleep because you don't feel the pain then. It's a hard place. But knowing
Definitely.
that it is not final, that there is hope, and that there is a place that you could go, and that place is a place of healing and restoration, that you don't have to stay there, and seeking the help that you need.
Hmm. Now, let's look at abandonment from this perspective. So you have our vets, whether they're blinded vets or whether they're just our standard veterans, and they're turned away by their own country that they fought for, that they gave up their life and their health for, that they spent time away from their families for, that they sacrificed all that they had for our country, and to see them abandoned. What does that do, and how do we begin the healing process for something like that?
I don't think that the healing process is any different. I think that abandonment is abandonment, whether it's the government, whether it's an employer, whether it's a loved one, whether it's family, whether it's friends. Abandonment still hurts. Everybody deals with grief and loss in different ways. And the process is up to the individual person. Dealing with it is the same steps. You have to recognize that this thing has happened. You have to identify that these feelings are the feelings that I have, and they are real. That I'm at this place right now, but there is hope that I can rise above it, no matter where the abandonment came from. I don't think that there's a difference.
Hmm. So explain a consultation session with you. And so even though abandonment is abandonment, how do you take the individual situations and help each one of your clients walk through this thing called abandonment? Is it abandonment and is different for each individual? Are they in a different stage one to another? How do you kind of break it down and know where to start with a particular person?
It's basically building that relationship with the person, understanding where they are, identifying where they are in their process of healing, and also walking through basically their belief system. I'm big component on where's your faith. And so I am a spiritual healer, and a transitional coach. So I'm working with the person and where they are on their journey in totality, not just in their abandonment issues, but where are you? Where are you in your life? Where do you want to go? Let's set some goals. Let's journey together and figure out what we need to do to get you from this place, quote unquote, that you're stuck in. And a lot of cases, it is one of the 5 steps. And sometimes they are in a lifting place, but they know that they have been redefined, but they don't know how to move from there. So it depends on the individual person and working with them individually and identifying what they need from a coach.
Mm. Do you think it gets easier as more and more abandonment happens? Should you be concerned if everybody in your life is abandoning you? Or, you know what I mean? Is it just you or, you know?
Well,
Right.
this is just my opinion. My opinion is that once you have identified and you are now providing your own emotional needs, that you're not relying on anything outside of you, that you don't necessarily go through the same steps you went through the next time something happens, because it's different. It wouldn't be like your carpet has been pulled from up under you.
Mhm.
Now you are at a place where you're strong enough to say, you know what, I see this for what it is. I trust it and I love like never before, but I understand this now. I understand it wasn't me. I understand it wasn't my inadequacies. I understand now that it's just something that happened and life just happens. And it didn't catch me by surprise because I'm not looking for anybody to supply all of my emotional needs. I'm supplying them myself. And one of the workshop, there's a lot of activities that we go through, and I do mindfulness and meditation and going to identifying yourself. We do some exercises that kind of this is like a triangle, and you as the observer is at the top, and at the bottom you have your child self and your adult self, and you actually go through a communication with your child self saying, these are my emotional needs, and you tell your adult self tells your child self how to remedy those needs, or basically say, I'm going to take care of those needs. And so with that, going through that process, it identifies your needs and it allows yourself to take care of your needs. And so I just don't think that once you get to that point where you are self-soothing and self-satisfying, that you deal with abandonment the same every time.
Mm. Okay. Okay. So Matt, have you experienced this outside of then as an adult? And did you deal with it differently if you did experience it as, a full-fledged grown man?
I think it's a lot like Angela said. during my rebuilding time, I realized that I couldn't move forward until I got to like myself first and
Mhm.
understand myself. And once I did that, if people leave me now, I'm just like, it's their loss. It has nothing to do with me, and
That's
I'm
it.
just gonna find other people. You know.
Mm. You know, it's crazy because I'm thinking now, because I was the person that would do the abandon. Boy, I leave you so quick. Oh, don't let us get into an argument. It's over. And you really was serious about the argument? I would leave. And I guess I think back, man, my biological donor left my mom. Like we went to court, something, child support or something. He basically denied me, and I remember hugging my mom on the porch steps of the court. And I said, something, 7-year-old would say, Mama, we're going to be okay. I'll take care of you, whatever. It's made her smile. She wiped a tear. But I still remember that abandonment then. And maybe that's why I used to leave out of relationships so often. Okay, cool.
Yeah,
Thank you.
yeah, that's kind of like what we talked about in the beginning of the conversation, that things happen in our childhood that deals with abandonment that we don't have the skill set to deal with then at a 4, 5, 6, 7 year old, and we carry it into adult lives. So then when the large abandonment issue comes up, all that stuff comes to the surface,
Mm-hmm.
and the key is to
And
deal
that's
with all of
also
them.
and that's also the first thing that you learned. You saw that, and internally, your mind said, "Hey, this must be what all fathers do."
Mm-hmm.
And until you learned something else and were able to see that there is another way, that you apparently stuck with this time because you're happily married now. So
Mm-hmm. But the thing, I got a great father. I mean, so he was there since I was 7, but I never really got over, because me and my mom, we close, you know what I mean? And I never really got over it because I didn't know how. And then by the time I got older, I didn't know it was a thing. I'm just now right here at 7:42 realized that it was a thing. And the reason why I was the way I was, because I mean, I'm telling you, boy, I would be gone. I'm talking about, it's been so many relationships where I just took my computer, my clothes, and whatever money I had, and they kept the furniture, the cars, everything. I was out. But anyway, all right. So I'm not gonna leave anymore. I'm not gonna leave anymore. I promise.
Yeah, I just want to make a point about that with childhood, and it's called trauma. That
Right.
sometimes you don't even remember what you've gone through. There's an example that I read that talks about a young boy at the age of 4 being taken into the hospital and having his tonsils removed, but all he remembered was waking up and his mom and dad over him feeding his ice cream. But when they came to see him, he was balled up in a fetal position because somewhere in his mind, he felt as if his parents had abandoned him, because all he did was wake up and he saw everybody around and everybody else's parents with them, and his was not there because there was a communication issue with them and the doctors, and they thought they couldn't come until it was time to pick him up. Now, mind you, he did not remember that incident, but his mom told him about it. But all through his life, he had an issue with abandonment. And he was so close to his mom that he failed out of school because he always wanted her around.
Mm.
So sometimes when we were faced with some things that come up emotionally, it's not just the situation at hand. It could be some things from our childhood that we have to deal with. That's why it's a process. And it's a need to heal, because we will, if we don't heal from it, sabotage ourselves, and we sabotage our dreams, we sabotage our careers, we sabotage our relationships, knowingly, as I said, knowingly and unknowingly.
Man, let me tell you this, a new one. Let me see what time it is. I'm getting them, boy. I'm getting them back. What is 7:42? And now it's 7:46. So check it out. Now, I'm a clinger when it comes to sleeping. And now I just realized that because I would always, when mom would take a nap, I would get behind her and, hold her, and we would go to sleep together. of course, mama ain't telling me, get off me, it's too hot, move, all of this. So whenever I experience it in relationships and you telling me move, it feels like you don't want me. It feels like you're, abandoning me, or there's no desire there. And really you saying your arm is heavy, it's too hot. You know what I mean? But mama never did it. You know what I mean? So, I just figured I'd share that. Again, don't send me no bill for this. I'm feeling though. Humpty Dumpty, we getting put all back together again. So what about getting counseling? How do you find the right person to talk to? And then, how do you, I guess, process it? Do you just spit it all out in one session? What's the best habits you found when seeking and experiencing consultation?
Well, personally, for me, when I'm looking for a counselor, I'm looking for a relationship that I can relate. And when I go in and you're doing the assessment, if it feels like that person is not paying you any attention, that they are constantly just looking at their paper and writing and not listening to you, what you're saying, or they're going by a textbook and giving you textbook answers off a piece of paper, then that may not be the right person for you. A lot of it is based on relationship, because you have to trust the person that you are sharing your life with, that you're opening up to. That's a lot of trust. And so a lot of times you may have to interview. You may have to interview a few people.
Okay.
And actually, I would recommend that you interview a few people. You go to somebody that you are comfortable with, because it's so personal. And it's so deep that you have to be really comfortable and trusting of the person that you're sharing with.
Got you. Matt, did you seek any type of help in a mentor or a professional counseling, anything like that?
Yeah, I mean, I try to always have a mentor that I talk to. I personally am not really into psychologists and psychiatrists, but that's only because that was kind of instilled in me from my mother, because my sister is totally sighted, and she's only about a year and a half younger than I am. And growing up, she always felt a little bit, out of it, because my parents were so concerned about me. And she was rebellious in high school, and she almost dropped out at one. She did drop out at one point, and my mother sent her to a psychologist who totally messed with her head. I mean, it blew up, it busted, it was bad, and so ever since then, I don't know, I just don't like psychologists, and I go more for the mentor situation.
Yeah. There's so many levels that you can go to before you get to a psychiatrist. A lot of times they like to prescribe medications, and one of the types of abandonment is siblings. A new baby coming in, or another child getting attention and you're not getting any attention, or the death of a sibling. And a lot of times you see that the older child or the younger child showing out for that. So I understand what she probably was going through. And sorry she met somebody like that. But that's the importance of interviewing these people. And children don't have a voice, so they have to have someone that advocates for them and speak up for them.
But the weird thing was, though, she was furious with me, but to anybody else, she would defend me tooth and nail. So, it was just between us. But when other people were around, we were bonded. I mean, totally bonded.
So it's 7:50, and I got a new one that I just found out about myself today. So I'm the oldest of 7 kids. So I was pushed like 6 times and 6 times and 6 times, with the other ones coming in. And I love my mama, and she kept having babies like every year. She be cooking, and I come in from playing that good play when she know I'm excited, and she say, "Guess what?" I say, "What? I'm having another brother or sister." And then, it's one more link that pushes me away from my mama. So thank you, Angela. Don't send me a bill though.
Oh, you getting a bill because you just talked about people getting services for free. I'm going to send you a bill.
All right. Well, put me on net 30 terms like the federal government. I love them. Got them place. So we are down to the last 10 minutes. We're going to go with final comments. And if you want to be reached, maybe Matt might be a great mentor to someone that's was in his shoes and he wants to pay it forward. And definitely Angela is willing to send you an invoice, take PayPal, cash payments, anything, that turns to shoe shopping money, I guess. But so let's start with you, Angela. How can people reach you, and give us your last thoughts?
Anybody who is in need of someone to talk to, coaching, mentoring, or if you just need somebody that will listen, you are free to give me a call at 678-978-0304. Again, that's 678-978-0304. In closing, that even though abandonment is something that is difficult and hard, and that all of us experience it, it is something that we can get over. That there is hope, and that you can redefine who you are and be a better person after the abandonment.
Amazing. Thank you for that. And Mr. Matthew Carrillo, what would be your last words on the topic for today, sir?
Well, first of all, you can reach me on Twitter, MFC71, Michael Frank Charlie 71. You can email me at mcarello, MCARELLO71 at comcast.net. And if we need to chat on the phone later, we can work that out once you contact me. And I will go back to an old proverb that will help you kind of center yourself. To thine own self be true.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So it's 7:53, and I am Vashawn Jones, host of Culture. And of course, we can be reached at Fedora_Outlier on Twitter, Fedora Outlier LLC on Facebook, and Excellence EXCELLENCE at FedoraOutlier.com. And my last words before Mike comes on and closes out with some instructions on what to be able to do in the future is people do not care
how much you know.
Oh yeah, they don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. And I learned that from Robert Smith, and Robert Smith said he got it from a football player. I don't know who to attribute, so I just attribute it to blind mentor, Mr. Robert Smith. Mr. Michael Babcock, with all that technology, tell people where we made food bars at, how to be corrected in the future as we move forward on this platform, and anything you would like them to know about yourself and how to reach you.
Of course. And well, anyone who wants to follow me can do so at Payon, P-A-Y-O-W-N on Twitter. And if you want to get updates about future Culture episodes, head on over to FedoraOutlier.com/live, enter your name and email address in that form. You'll be made aware of when we're going live again. And we want to thank the 5 participants who joined us today on the phone. Unfortunately, you weren't able to engage with us. And if you do join with us in the future, remember that you do have the chat feature ability to leave your questions. So thanks for joining, and that's all I have.
Enter full screen.
Sound like a plan. Well, we are out for Culture. This is number 2, Abandonment, and stay tuned for the next episode.